Check. 1, 2. 1, 2. Oh man, this is going slow. Alright, we're gonna have to come back to this in a second. Okay, this is gonna work, guys. I'll be right back. I gotta go get my mushroom cocoa. Please stay on, and we've got some fun special guests for you today, so hold up. Hello everybody, how's it going out there? Who out there needs a haircut? I know I do, that's why I'm wearing my hoodie. Welcome to Mornings with Greg. This is The Morning and I'm Greg. And we're going to talk about things. got a new interface working where I don't really need to wear headphones for this part, but I can easily transition into wearing headphones and talking to people. So that's going to be fun. We've got a couple fun special guests today lined up. One is Fareed Haq. If any of you guys know the band Raj Mahal, that's his brainchild. I was a big fan of them back in the day. I'm still a big fan of Fareed, and he's going to play some really cool stuff for us. And Greg Ward is also going to join us. So that's going to be sweet. How you guys doing out there? You guys getting along with your families? How many of you are quarantining with families? How wild is it to quarantine with people and get to know them in a way that you couldn't have gotten to know them before? For me, it's amazing. Because despite all of the death and destruction that's happening in the world, which is actually it's turning out to be even worse than we've been thinking, the opportunity to be mindful and dive more into reading and dive more into meditation has been, I would say, transformative for me. And that's the name of the game right now, right? To make life as good as we can make it for ourselves and each other, and to try to be there as much as we can for each other, even in different creative ways at this point in history. It's a pretty wild point in human history, right? Yeah, it is. Keep this setup working over here. Sabine says it's like a daily home retreat. Kind of is. I started this morning, yesterday I started reading the book Man's Search for Meaning. I just got through the forewords of it. There are 2 forewords, both well worth spending the time on. And I just started the actual book today, and it's for those of you who don't know, it's a book written by a Holocaust survivor about his experiences in a concentration camp. He's also a psychologist, and his perspective on the whole thing is transformative. There's no way to describe the effect that it's had on people. It's a book that comes up for people. When I'm looking at the most meaningful books people have read in their lifetimes, this is a constant. So I'm reading it now, and it's going to be a pretty depressing, probably week as I read every morning. 'Cause I spend 10 minutes reading something every morning at least. And this morning I got into it and had to stop myself after 20 minutes. But yeah, it's going to be depressing and enlightening and encouraging to get through the chapters of that book. It's pretty wild to think that these things have happened in human history. We're going through something right now with coronavirus where a lot of people are dying, and that was a situation and a time where 6 million at least 6 million Jewish people, and then lots of other minorities in the world were slaughtered at the hands of people. Right now we're going through something where we're being I guess you couldn't say slaughtered, what do you say? We're being hurt, killed at the hands of something that's not human. But yeah, to think about that it happened at the hands of human beings. So it's a time to reflect on things like that, I think. How's the audio for you guys out there? Is it pretty good? Give me a little what's up if the audio is okay, because it's a new system. Jessie Henson says she needs to go out today and she wants me to play something inspirational. Oh wow, I know, yeah, so the camera's a little behind again, isn't it? Let's see if it catches up. If it doesn't catch up, I can always restart. Interesting how that works. Thank you for letting me know that the sound is good. So Jessie, if you just wear a full hazmat suit. Jessie, or Janet Hansen, is my psycho auntie, so I knew her growing up. We called her psycho auntie because she was like an ant, like psychological ant. I think that's why we called her that. But yeah, if you're going out, wear a full hazmat suit so you don't get into any danger. But if you don't have a full hazmat suit, make sure you have the mask and, you know. I wore a hoodie when I had to fly at the beginning of this whole thing a few weeks ago. I wore this hoodie and like the whole tracksuit, but I wore like just a full-on face mask with the hoodie so that nothing could come in from any direction, and it was it felt pretty safe. I mean, I didn't catch it, so. that one? I'll put in these quotes sometimes. They're a little obscure. I'll play it again for those of you who didn't get it. Nobody? One of you guys must know that. Anybody my age, when you were, yeah, very good. It's from Peter and the Wolf. Sam got it. Jonathan Olson got it. My mom got it. Okay, people got it. People got it. Though mostly people from my own. 2 out of 3 people from my own childhood. Oh, there's nothing like mushroom cocoa in the morning. Wendy got it too. Although I'm not sure, actually, because of the lag, I don't know if you got it before. Wait, actually, was it Tchaikovsky or Prokofiev? You mean Prokofiev? I thought it was Tchaikovsky, but I might be wrong. I just know it as Peter and the Wolf from my growing up. So we've got a very special guest coming on in just a moment here. So I'm gonna get my messenger all up and ready here. Fareed Haq is going to join us, as long as he remembers. He probably does. I bet you he does. Oh, there he is, right on time. What's up, Fareed?
How you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Here, let me change my video screen so that people can see you as well as hear you. Here, wait 1 second. Boom. We are now mirroring to live, and everybody should be able to hear you now. So give.
Hi, everybody.
All right.
Good morning out here on the Westy Coasty.
The Westy Coasty. What coasty are you on right now?
I'm on the No Coasty.
The No Coasty. I would say that's like the middle coast.
Right, Lake Michigan.
Yeah, Central Coast.
Right.
How is it out
Actually,
there?
pretty landlocked. Well, weather's weird, but get more. Nature's starting to come to life again. Nice. I have a decent backyard here with a little retention pond. They caught a 4-pound bass yesterday. So like going fishing with water. We get to go outside and a lot, keeping us staying, you know.
Cool. So the connection wasn't perfect there. I think there's a little bit of garbling of some of the words, but we got most of it. It says you have an intention pond in your backyard.
Retention pond.
Oh, retention pond. I thought that, man, you said, I heard intention pond, and I was thinking, oh man, this is some very spiritual, like Buddhist-ish sort of stuff.
Oh yeah. We go out there and we make our movements, you know, and then throw them into the retention pond. The intention pond is like a giant wishing well, full of feces and fertilizer.
That sounds great. That's fantastic.
No lack of dark wit on my end.
What's that?
No lack of dark wit on my end.
That's good. I think, you know what? We can all use a little bit of dark wit during this time.
Right. We have to watch the daily briefings to get all the dark wit we need.
Watch what? You said? The
daily briefings.
Oh yeah, seriously. Oh my God. That shit's crazy.
Right.
I try to not even, you know what? I've paid attention to a little bit of it because obviously no matter who is regardless of who is pulling what triggers right now, it's like things need to happen, and we need to have things done for the community in the U.S. and whatever thing can be done needs to be done. So I've been paying attention to a little bit of it, and I've seen some of the things that are trying to happen, and it's hard, man. It's hard because like we're in a place where
my wife is a sociologist.
Yeah.
And we are switching routinely between CNN and Fox just to make the comparisons, And, I don't want to get partisan at all because it's really distressing to see how completely and radically different CNN and Fox are in terms of what they're reporting and what stories they choose to emphasize. And, it's a sad state of affairs when the truth can be so questioned.
Yes.
That you can't rely on anything. I don't want to side with one source or the other because I don't feel like either network is doing what they need to do to create confidence in their reporting.
I totally agree. I think it speaks to the nature of media and its job, where the job of media in its purest form is meant to inform the people, but media in its commercial form, which is the media that we're getting, is meant to retain viewers. And the only way that the easiest way you can retain viewers is by speaking specifically to those viewers, to things that they will agree with. And so then it gradually over time parts into these two completely polar opposite ideas of truth, which are very it's not genuinely informative except for just the very baseline, most obvious facts, like how many people have died, right? Or how many people are getting sick.
And even those facts are easily, turned into questions. As a statistician, my wife has been able to show me how you could just take any set of numbers and report them in such a way that a 10-second or 8-second soundbite can make it sound like, this is what's happening when that's, there's a million ways to interpret numbers. So you can even really mess with those numbers in such a way that, man, nobody knows what's really happening. And that's hard, because if you're asked to put your life on the line based on facts that are not something that you can entirely put your faith in.
It's true. And we
undermine our confidence in just being involved, engaged in society. I mean, there's just a ton of aftershocks from those kinds of realities.
Well, think about how that's happened. Think about like the Vietnam War.
Don't get me started.
The reasoning, right? and people like, I mean, right now I feel like as far as information goes and what we're fighting against, it's pretty, like, people are at least unified that there is a virus, it's getting people sick, and we need to try to figure out how to address that as a society in one way or another. And you think back to times when humans were fighting each other for their lives, like in the Vietnam War, and you had information being fed to people that told them they should go put their lives on the line, when that information was, it was told for a purpose, and to get people to put their lives on the line.
Pentagon Papers, and I mean, there's so many books out there that point to the levels of dysfunction in our intelligence community. I mean, here are two musicians debating the
It's important, though. It's important. I mean, man, what the hell do we know? But what the hell does anybody know? Because it's one of those.
That's the problem. Problem, right?
And I think it's up to every single individual to be as thoughtful as possible about this. And I've been absorbing a lot of YouTube lately because we have time. And one of the advertisements that's been coming up is an advertisement for the Masterclass series where Neil deGrasse Tyson is starting it out. And the quote that he starts it out with, and it keeps being reiterated to me over these commercials, is one of the greatest, I don't remember how he says it, but one of the greatest dangers is knowing enough to think you're right, but not knowing enough to know that you're wrong. You know?
Right? Yeah. My mom used to always say, she was really into philosophy, so she'd always say, um, the only thing I know is that I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that knowledge is a powerful tool, and you got to stay humble around it, because you start to think you know things, and you have to be careful and really scrutinize your own personal motivations. There's a fantastic book out there by a neuroscientist named Gary Marcus called Kluge, Kluge.
Okay.
And he talks about how the more recent discoveries of neuroscience point to the fact that our brains don't really function. We're never designed to function logically. And that we can have all the facts at our disposal, but until the reptile brain, right, gets a shock that will, move it out of its pattern, will lock the patterns, it's impossible for us psychophysically to change our minds about something. So, as much as we like to think that we're these logical, rational creatures, biologically we're actually not. And so we can accumulate all this data and put it and be looking at it, and still we can find a way to make it support what we want it to support until something changes that. Whether it's you go out and you see the devastation, you see bodies in the street, or you see a war-torn area, or you hear it, or you experience it in some way that creates an emotional response, and that all of a sudden can change your mind. I mean, so it's a fascinating book that talks about how the mind really works, and how that can affect our decision-making process, our understanding of knowledge, how that affects our perception of the news, all these kinds of stuff.
That sounds like a very powerful book. Tell me the name again. I'm going to type it in the chat so that everybody listening can see the actual one.
It's Kluge. Kluge. It's a German word. I think it means just a disordered mess.
Okay.
And it's by Gary Marcus.
Gary Marcus
at NYU in New York. We did a book together called Guitar Zero, where he went into the study of music and the process of learning music. So he decided to teach himself guitar and then document that process from a neuropsychological point of view.
Very interesting.
And so his teachers were me and Pat Metheny, and trying to think who else was involved. He interviewed Pat Martino, and then he had a lot of sort of rock friends, more pop musicians like the Roches, would come over to his house, and we would sit there and hang out a little bit and talk about the process of learning to play rhythm guitar, just rhythm guitar.
Yeah.
That was, he talked about what's involved with that, and it's a huge discussion, because we might take for granted that going. Like that's just let's play a pocket, and that's kind of part of meat and potatoes, yeah. But man, you get someone in there who's never done it, and to go, well, it's not. I get it. But like all the little things. And it's just
layers of nuance, all of these motor skills that go into it. It's like you have to chunk the very basics of information, expand upon that.
One of the things I do. have my students play a blues, you know, and it's amazing, you know, or even going out on gigs, and it's amazing, you know, being from the Midwest, we get a thing, right? This blues thing, that all that subtlety and stuff is in that music, you know, and you kind of can't work. Well, I mean, you can work anywhere, but you can't really work in Chicago unless you kind of have some of those roots. You know, New Orleans is like that too. Maybe Indianapolis. There's a lot of cities where you have this rootsy thing, you know. And I'll have these students come in who can play, you know, who can play giant steps, you know, and they can do all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, let's transcribe the B.B. King solo, and they always come back like white-faced. Like, oh shit, what did I just step into, you know? And I'll even have my students will go. I'll be like, you know. You know, just you can just sit like that, and how long do you just sit there and just feel that, right?
Yeah. I can listen to that all day.
Just keep it right in the pocket, you know what I mean? And, you know, there's so much that comes from that. You know, when I was working with Zawinul, I guess that was the big revelation, was that he had taken all this jazz experience that he had and had boiled it down to, man, it's all about folk music. It's all about the people. It's all about earth music. You know?
Yeah, well, and Zawinul was exemplary of that in his projects and what he put out into the world. Yeah,
and, you know, so I would sit there with him and, you know, for all of my formal education and all this stuff, you know, I would have to sit there and go, you know, well, gosh, some of these parts were like... Play something like that for like, I have to retune for that, but play something like that for like 25 minutes and just groove, you know. And I would even play like, oh, I can play a solo. And I might play, be like, oh, what are you doing? Don't do that. None of that. I don't want to hear any bebop licks. I don't want to hear anything that I can recognize. I just want to hear, earth and
yeah.
And even if I played something, that sounded like Chicago blues, he didn't want that. He wanted it to sound completely like folk music from another planet, something,
Yeah, but in that specific idiom, and the idioms, the different, each has its own language that's communicating its own thing, its own feeling, and that feeling stems from the people that have manifest that folk music from whatever region, and the blues is that type of folk music, which it is a specific. Would you call the blues of type of folk music? Because I feel like it has a similar origin.
I think, yeah, I do, and I think that was kind of Joe's point, was that I think he began to see that all music, in his eye, and maybe I agree with him, was ultimately folk music. So I'm sitting with Joe once, and. I'm sitting with Joe once, and I'm playing Beautiful by Manuel Ponce, a Mexican folk song.
Yeah, gorgeous. This down here.
Right?
Yeah.
And this goes on, And I'm playing this for Joe in the green room, and he's like, I know that song. I'm like, well, no, this is classical music by Manuel Ponce from Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Joe is Austrian, right? He's like, no, my grandmother used to sing that song. I'm like, your grandmother used to sing that song? She's Austrian. This is Mexican music.
Uh-huh.
He's like, man, don't be so small, man. Mexico. Why do they call it Mexico? Because Mexico was originally an Austrian colony. It was named after the Emperor Maximilian, right? Mexico was actually part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Mm-hmm.
That's why mariachi bands are like hippified German polka bands, right? And German bands, right? That's why there's and Joe's telling me this, like, well, of course, that's why there's all this horn music and all this, and of course in the north of Mexico by the Rio Grande, in the western part of Mexico, there are a lot of tall, blonde, blue-eyed Mexicans. Because at the time of the Mexican-American War, the Mexican government said, if you come on our side of the Rio Grande, fight for us, we'll give you all this land. Right? So all this history that shows that even this classical music has its roots in folk music. If you go to Bach, any. Even that, right, is all those pieces are drawn after folk dances, and only towards the later centuries that music became more formal and removed from the sphere of the general public. So I think there's a strong argument to be made that ultimately all music is folk music, and we're just finding ways to repackage it.
Yeah, well, I notice when I hear the most prevalent melodies over the past, say, 50 years that have stood the test of time, they're often traceable back to something that was drawn from somebody like Bach, that was then drawn from somebody before him from the folk music tradition. There's nothing that is not a reference to that which came before it, because it's all relative in the first place. It's easy for us to get disconnected from it and feel like we're creating something new when really we're just speaking with our ancestors.
And I think that the idea of speaking with the ancestors is really important, and it's part of what our mission is. Is to keep us connected to those roots in ways. This box might not be the same box that Bach's friends played, or that was played in Africa. But the music doesn't necessarily change that much, and the principles don't. Let me put this guitar down here. The principles don't necessarily change that much. So, like this idea that we may be making beats on original hand drums made from goat and fish skins. We may be making beats on a mechanical contrivance, developed by the Ludwig Corporation. Or we might be making beats on a cheesy drum machine from the 80s. But the principles of those beats still live and breathe, and it's great to hear those kinds of connections. People say jazz is dead. Well, I think they have a small definition of jazz. If jazz is dead, because I listen to what you're doing, and Micaiah, and Square Pusher, and who's my boy, Bass Nectar, and a lot of these, they're playing instrumental music to 10,000 people with all the intensity and subtlety of groove, maybe a little louder, but
well,
more low end. But the principles are there.
Many would argue, and some of my greatest inspirations would argue, like Herbie, for example, is adamant that jazz is a mentality. It's not just a set of vocabulary pieces. That's the small mentality, saying that the set of Bud Powell and Charlie Parker licks are the entirety of jazz. They're a piece of it, but they fall into the category of a larger mentality and a scope that they shared, which many people today share as well. which is of exploration and improvisation and connection, looking for something beyond and questioning yourself and taking into account history and the breadth of everything that's around us right now to try to push forward and create something new. That's the mentality of jazz.
Well, I like to say it differently, and this is not to take issue with someone as respected and as genius as Herbie Hancock, but I do think that there's another way to say the same thing that actually works a little better.
What's that?
Which is to say that groove and improvisation and creativity are part of all musical style. That mentality, which I think Herbie's calling jazz, is essential to making, lasting, powerful music. And I think to say that means it's jazz kind of puts a limit on jazz and puts a limit on other styles, because when I hear Ravi Shankar, or even better yet, Ali Akbar Khan playing the sarod with Julian Bream and a killing tabla player, and the pocket is just happening, and there's people from cultures improvising, none of the three of which are jazz musicians per se, but they're embracing all of the principles that we're talking about when we talk about jazz. So are they jazz musicians? No, because they don't have any experience in the jazz world. Maybe Julian Bream a little bit from his dad, but in general, not really. And yet those principles are there. So I like to say those principles are one thing, and that allows me to say that jazz is, for the most part, a much more defined thing, right?
Okay.
The actual jazz, like jazz from New Orleans, is not. If jazz was the same as James Brown, then every jazz play James Brown and every James Brown would play jazz.
Well, you're speaking to the lineage now. So what you're saying is that jazz is something that takes into account that mentality, the breadth the mentality that the breadth of great music takes into account. But it stems from a lineage that is now culminating in this particular moment in time that has roots from a specific tree.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to say that, and the reason is because, it's like I would rather say this is bluegrass, this is jazz, this is Hindustani music, this is Carnatic music. Now I'm going to take elements of Carnatic music and mix them with elements of jazz.
And you can
but the underlying Carnatic music, Hindustani music, and American jazz aren't really that different. And those are the principles I think that we all get excited about when we run into them. When I run into an Indian musician who's totally willing to throw down and interact, and I say, well, have you ever heard of Charlie Parker? They're like, who? The nice restaurant? They don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Well, you're speaking to an interesting principle, something that I feel like it has application to literally everything in life, like down to the deepest the deepest rabbit hole of thought that you can go down about any aspect of art, like any level of art, but then also just our interactions and our being a human being, which is that the deeper you get, the closer you get to a oneness of first concept and then existence. And when you get down to that oneness of concept, you can take every idiom, all of these different languages of music, and pull them down to what makes them great.
Beautiful. Yes.
And
absolutely, man. I feel you 100%. It's interesting because one of the things that even, in my groups and stuff, we'll talk about this, and it's interesting when you look at the history of American music, and you look at the innovators of what we call fusion, let's just say, for lack of a better word, Tony Williams, Wayne Shorter, Joe Zawinul, Herbie, Miles, Train, so many incredible musicians who were, in many ways, the roots of new music And all of these cats were deeply, deeply, deeply grounded in tradition. Coriel, McLaughlin, you start even going further afield. All these cats were really deeply grounded in tradition. Santana, Hendrix. It was not Santana first. It was the Santana Blues Band. Right? Hendrix was first and foremost a blues guitar player, and then took that blues, elsewhere. Hendrix, Zeppelin, right? The Beatles were completely immersed in the traditions of American R&B and American blues. And so you come back to this thing that's why I like to kind of be able to embrace the idea of evolution and modernity through many different musical styles by saying, well, jazz is this tradition, classical music, that tradition, and they're different, but they share principles in common when they're really done right.
Yes, they share principles in common, and they share roots. If you go down, the roots come from somewhere. And I want to get to a little bit of playing, and then a bit before we conclude, because after Fareed we have Greg Ward coming on, and Greg Ward is probably watching. And at some point I'll figure out how I can get you guys on together, because we called on, this is Facebook Messenger, but I'm gonna figure out how to get two people on together via Messenger. I haven't figured that out yet. I have it figured out on FaceTime, but at some point I'll have people coming and talking together. But for those of you who don't know right now, and I'm going to interrupt that interruption for one other, this is Fareed Haq. Fareed is, in not just my opinion, but the opinion of many who know him, one of the greatest guitarists in the world. And he has played with many of the other people who have formed modern music history, including Joe Zawinul and many others. And we are very, very lucky to have him on this show this morning. I'm super, super grateful. I feel like he's dropping all sorts of knowledge on us, and we're going to continue this conversation for a minute, and then ask him to play something of his choice for us before we invite Greg Ward on as our next guest.
I'm going through all in this time. I've been. I'll send you some chat links in a minute here when we wrap up to maybe share with your audience, because I've been at home making all these little home videos, and I'm starting now that I've got my home little studio up and running just enough, just enough. I got my little Focusrite, my little nice microphone, and so I'm starting to go through archives and tracks, and I found a great recording of Greg and I at the mill when he sat in. And we play, I think, what is this thing called Love? But it's off the chain. It gets out of control. It's like where it goes is unbelievable.
Oh, I'm sure.
Starts out like, what do you call love? And it's happy. All of a sudden, it just starts going off, and it's still the song. But man,
I can already hear that in my head, knowing what Greg would put over something like that. Let me give them a link in the chat here to where they can find all this stuff from you. Is it just your website, or should they look you up on Facebook? What's the best place for people to find you?
I think if you go to either Fareed.com,
okay,
www.fareed.com, and then you can link to my Facebook pages from there, and all of those new videos. I think I've got 3 or 4 videos I just put up. And I think if you go to the Fareed Haq YouTube channel, that might be the simplest way to do it.
Okay.
And subscribe to that.
Great.
I'll give you those links in a minute here.
Great. And we have people on, just so you know, I know you're not watching the chats, but we have people on who are saying, Elf Lundberg says, Fareed Haq is one of my greatest inspirations as a guitarist. And a lot of people are so thankful that we have you on. Dave Miller says, yeah, Fareed. So you're getting a lot of appreciation from the fan base right now. What
sweet.
Is that, man?
This is what we were talking about. This is when different traditions come together.
Oh my God.
This is built by a great luthier who's also a wonderful yogi named Kim Schwartz. His initials are over there. Kim Leland Schwartz.
How cool.
And the fret markers are in Sanskrit, which is, I thought, a cute touch. And this is the instrument that I would bring to Joe's gigs, and Joe just loved the idea of this because, Is it a sitar? No. Is it a guitar? No. Is it part of a tradition? It's part of two traditions, and they smash head on together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like the guitar. And what's cool is it's fretted. So normally on a sitar you can get the sound. But you can't really do this.
Oh, wow.
What I'm going to do here, I just thought of this. I haven't really planned this out. I think that's part of the charm of these things is not to plan it out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's improvisatory.
So I'm going to... So what's nice here is I've got all these tuners here. So in the sitar, if you wanted to retune the drum strings, it would take you about a week.
Okay.
That's... Now this was a C sharp, because that was in D.
Do you have perfect pitch, Fareed?
I have guitar perfect pitch. I can hear an E almost all the time.
Okay.
No, I don't have perfect pitch.
Because that's wild that you can just tune those without, just through the relativity.
Well, I'm kind of hearing the scale, yeah.
Woo!
Hallelujah, everybody.
Oh man, that was so gorgeous. Thank you for blessing our channel with that. How cool. Now you wouldn't be able to play that on an actual sitar because of the chord changes, right?
Right, right. And you wouldn't be able to play that on an actual guitar like that because you don't have the resonant strings, and the bridge actually is, if you can see that, this guitar's been through a lot of battles and
Yeah.
yeah, got a lot of battle scars. Say hello to my little friend.
Wow.
Scarface guitar here.
That's really cool.
That bridge is are pieces of bone. Bones of my victims, I will add. No. That's been filed away so that it creates that sitar drone, sitar buzz. And getting back to your point about how things just come around and come around again, you know, people are, when Hendrix started using distortion, people were like, "Oh, this is horrible. This is evil." You know, people have been trying to make their axes distort for thousands, not hundreds, thousands of years. 5,000 years ago, they were making their instruments buzz. So if I play this, it's totally acoustically, right? But if I were to play,
Oh man.
Now, is that Indian music? Is that funk? Is that, I mean, right?
That is cool, is what that is. That is so cool. Have you ever? Oh man, I promise I'll let you go soon. But have you released an album of music with that instrument?
You know, it's funny that you say that because it's been one of my home plans, and I'm actually starting to work on that. You know, sort of right now to eventually do. I mean, I've used it on all of my records. I'm a tune here, a tune there, but I've never actually done like a whole album of just guitar music.
Man,
and
that's
what this has allowed me to do.
That would be my morning record for months. I listen to an album every morning, and that would be, if you did a record of songs just on that thing, completely acoustic, I would listen to that every single day. I'm sure a lot of people would.
You know, it's interesting because one of the thoughts I've been having is, you know, as instrumental musicians, we get wrapped up in playing for each other. Sometimes we don't play for the people. Not that that's any kind of sacrifice. That isn't. It shouldn't be, ideally. You know, if we're making music, not good for people, I'm not sure what we're up to.
Well, yeah, we sometimes let our intellect get carried away with it.
Or egos, or both.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that what I'd love to do is, and I'm talking to Jason Hahn and from String Cheese Incident and some buddies of mine, just to make a record that would be like, here's an hour worth of, here's an hour-long dance party. Here's an hour-long meditation. Here's an hour, because an album used to be, this concept thing that was dictated by technology. But just by happenstance, the limits of technology, it was like, wow, here's a perfect amount of music for us to groove and party for about 20 minutes and then go get a drink of water and then flip the record over and groove for another 20 minutes or so. By that time, everything's happening and it's time for the next stage, whatever that might be, and or meditation music, 45-minute meditation, but now you get those records. Some people send me records and there's like I've released, a double CD with 38 songs, and they're all 7 minutes long. And you're like, dude, I'm sorry, I love music, but I'm going to get through about 20 minutes of this. Maybe. And it's or we put as instrumentalists, I like to pay attention to what records I put on to listen to, and most of the time, it's not records that the guitar player wants to listen to. It's records that the dad or the husband or best head of household trying to balance the checkbook wants to listen to, whatever the situation, and so I started looking at that and going, wow, when I'm in the car driving, some people say to me, hey, I listened to your album Deja Vu when I was in the car driving for 6 hours, and it was like perfect. It was a great drive. That's a great compliment. So I said, we had your album Opacon when we conceived our baby. We had our album Opacon. Oh no, we had your album Opacon when I proposed, when we conceived, and in the delivery room. And I'm like, that's a hit. I don't care how many money that's what it's supposed to do, And so I love this idea of creating, serious, well-conceived, passionate, found music that are useful, functional music.
Yes. Well, the music I listen to for pleasure is very different from the music I listen to for study. I think it's important to realize that we have that distinction, because many of us are trying to always study. But like, for example, right now, for the past week, every morning I've just listened to Mozart, like 40 minutes of Mozart, and it's been specific Mozart pieces that are so simple and the most pure, symmetrical, simple pieces that I was able to find, and I made a morning playlist from it, because that's what brings me into the present moment. Yeah, it's very special.
Put that on, and everybody in the family starts just humming along. Even the baby, my little baby, just start rocking back and forth.
Yeah, because it connects. It connects, man. Oh, so good. I could listen to you all day. I'm so deeply grateful that you joined on this live morning show. I hope we can have you back, man, and I hope that the audio was okay for everyone.
Do more, and let's make some music together. And I'm going to get this audio stuff even better, because I'm actually really getting my tech starting together. And I have my shameless plug here for the fancy blue microphone.
Oh, nice.
See the microphone there?
All right. Cool.
Well, I don't know.
I'm not sure if I saw the microphone itself, but I definitely know the microphone. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
There she is. Woo!
Yeah, that's a gorgeous microphone.
My son's drums. He's going to play some drum loops for me. There are my guitars, and all lined up in a happy row. There's my little stereo with my turntable.
Nice.
There's my axes, and I got my little station here with the plants and the trees and the little pond in the backyard.
That's gorgeous. That's beautiful, man.
So I have nothing. And there's my guitar pick. This is my guitar pick. I only use these guitar picks because they're purple.
Yeah, I think there's another figure in music history who really liked the color purple, so you're in good company.
All right, brother. Say hi to Greg for me, and keep making the great music, and keep spreading the love, man.
I will. Thank you again, man. And also, let me know. I'll help you out with the audio stuff. I've been working on this stuff for weeks now, of getting this whole system in order, and it's crazy the learning experiences I've gone through. So we can huddle on that.
It's funny. I got the interface working just great, but it doesn't. It's like the Focusrite thing and PC. They just are doing battle. They just will not get along.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna have to just resurrect the Mac world.
Yeah. Well, Macs do make it a little easier. You can also plug the Focusrite into your phone. There are some drivers you can get so that you can go directly into your phone system.
Oh, yeah, that's a thought.
Just a thought.
See, You youngins, you youngins.
Well, we'll keep working on it, man, and let's huddle later. Let's make some music together. Thank you so much for having me on, for letting me have you on my stream, and we'll do this again.
Thanks for having me. Okay,
All right.
much love.
Fareed Haq, everybody. See you later. That was Fareed Haq. Oh, man, what an experience that was. That was so special. Oh, Fareed is one of the best guitarists in existence of our lifetime. He, if you couldn't tell, which I'm sure you could from his playing just now, and I made Greg Ward wait an extra half hour. I'm really sorry, Greg. You're probably watching us right now. If you can still, Greg Ward, if you can still join us today, I'll have you on. If you're busy now, because I know I told you 8:45, I will. We can do it another day. So I'm gonna try FaceTiming you though, and we'll find out now if Greg Ward can join us or not, because Greg Ward is another musical genius from Chicago. Greg and Fareed have played together. Hey, there he is!
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm so sorry I'm this late, man. I made you wait an extra half hour. Are you okay on timing still, or are we still good? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed watching.
Oh my God, man! Isn't Fareed amazing?
Very cool. Yes.
Like his depth of understanding and thoughtfulness of music and history, and then his ability to play and educate. It's just like, it's beyond.
Yeah, man, I've known Freed for 22 years now, or 23 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I was going to these combo days we used to have back at Northern Illinois University as a high school student. And I just remember, like, that was one of my favorite parts, when the faculty would do the concert with the guest artists, and Freed was always a standout. Yeah. So, and then getting to go to school there, and then living in Chicago, and being around Chicago, and we would always be taking trips up to see his band, the Freed Haq Group, and any opportunity to hear him play with well, pretty much anybody, just to hear him. It was always a treat. Yeah.
Yeah, man, he's a staple. He's such a legend, especially in the Chicago scene. If you talk about, hey, Dave Miller says NYU. Yeah, anybody in the Chicago scene, Fareed is just one of the great influences, and then for the world, and any guitarist that you speak to in the world will be inspired by Fareed and Fareed's work. So I hope he makes that. I hope he makes that record that he was talking about with the sitar guitar. That'd be such a cool thing to have.
Yeah, very much so.
So
I'm trying to.
No, go on.
No, I was just trying to think about this. He did a piece with Zakir Hussain, and I was wondering if that was the instrument he used with the Chicago Sinfonietta years ago. And I just remember that being. I was late to the concert and had to watch it through the through the door, but it still was awesome. So.
How cool. Yeah. I did that once at a Herbie concert. I couldn't get tickets to the concert. I was in college, and so I put on a all black attire, pretended I was a tech guy, grabbed some cables and ran backstage and watched through the peephole of backstage.
The hustle. Yeah, man. Nice.
For those of you tuning in right now, this is Greg Ward, everybody. Greg is a great saxophone player from Chicago, and now he's... Where is your professorship?
At Indiana University in Bloomington.
Yeah, he's now an esteemed professor at Indiana University in Bloomington, which is super cool. And Greg and I have played together in various contexts in Chicago, and he has always been one of my inspirations on the Chicago scene. His harmonic sense, melodic capability, and technical facility are all just beyond. So every time I hear Greg, I have to go back and practice and try to work on my shit more. So I'm really happy and lucky to have him on this show. So, Greg, how have you been doing? I know everybody. It will get to be an old subject for people at some point. But how have you been doing in isolation? What have you been doing to keep yourself sane and to keep yourself pushing forward and doing music?
Well, for me, I mean, this is this kind of isolation is so much a part of what I just do naturally. And I like to be in the house working on music and working on playing the saxophone and learning and whatever. It just kind of takes me back to some of earlier my earlier days when maybe I wasn't working as much as I have been in the past few years and was just at home. If I wasn't, playing a gig or rehearsing, I'd just be in the house writing and practicing all day. And so now that things are rather busy, I have a wife now, and so of course, like that changes like just the dynamic of you're sharing the house together,
Yeah.
and you're both together. And we talk about it about right when we got married, how we both were we weren't so busy, and we were in New Jersey, we were in Jersey City, and we were both just at home all the time working on our various things. My wife is a filmmaker, and me being a saxophonist and composer. So, kind of a return to that. So we feel very comfortable being at home and working, and then also we get out and go to the parks and walk or exercise and stuff like that. But it's unfortunate circumstances that we're in with this coronavirus, but we're taking advantage of the time, kind of having to slow down and think on things, think about how you want to move forward. So, it's all right. It's all right for right now. A month in, we're okay.
Good, man. Good.
Yeah.
I've felt the same way. It's
Yeah.
doing what we do as artists. It ends up being easier to isolate because we've been isolating as part of our routine for our whole professional lives. And the challenge for me has been seeing what's going on around the world and kind of looking out the window at the catastrophe.
Yeah.
But personally, being able to work on the things that I've been wanting to work on even more because there's no temptation to go out and there's no temptation to do anything because we're not even allowed to. It's actually been easier for me to focus and hone in on the projects that I did want to get started. Like this live stream.
Yeah. Yeah, man. This is a very cool thing
Thanks, man.
that you started.
Thanks, man.
Has it been a month you've been doing this, or?
No, couldn't have been a month. I've been leaving them all up so I can go check, but I
No.
feel like it's maybe been 2 weeks.
Okay, just 2 weeks.
Maybe
Okay,
3, actually. I might have been doing this as long. I saw when I first started it, Chick Corea was also starting his daily thing, and he's counting the days on his, and I think he's up to day 21. So maybe it's actually been 21 days. The time has gone by quickly. It's funny to think I haven't missed one of the days of it yet. So when I get into a routine, I can just go.
Wow. cool. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I think that is this kind of. It's made the days longer for me. That's what I mean. Is that just you're not going out to any rehearsals. You're not you're not in the car so much. So yeah, it's interesting place to be in, at least in the house. Very terrible situation going on in the world. In the scope of the world, but in the house, it's it gives you an opportunity to think about how do you want to continue. Or have you been going about your day to day in the manner that you'd like, and have a chance to really observe that without being kind of pulled on to the next thing.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. And to be self-reflective in that process. Like, it's really obvious what we're dealing with every day now because we see it from morning to night in the same location. So if we're wasting it, we can tell. If you're watching Netflix, it's like, okay, you're watching Netflix. Like, there's no excuse. There's no like, oh, I have to go out and I have to do this and I have to do that. We don't have to do anything. We just have to be, and then we can start from that place.
Yeah.
I would love to hear you play something for us. I wish we could jam. People are even saying in the chat thing here that there are systems that are maybe that are at least being developed or maybe already developed, and I'm gonna keep trying to figure it out. I've been trying to figure out how to do real time jamming for a while, and have not gotten it down yet. But at the very least, for now, I would love to hear you play something for me and for the people watching the channel right now. Anything of your choice, man.
I mean, I was so inspired by Freed's blues playing, man. I think I might have to join that party this morning just to get in the.
All right, don't hurt us now.
Back in that zone. No. Let's see what happens here.
This is Greg Ward, everybody, for those of you who are just tuning in. Man, I caught you at the end of that just a tiny bit, given some.
Okay.
So you're not going to hear me right now because otherwise it'll be a really weird feedback situation. But
Yeah.
But I was able to catch you a little bit. That was so killing, man. Dave.
Thanks, man. That's
Dave
fine.
Miller made a comment up there that I agree with. Stank in all capital letters. Oh, brilliant,
man. That's Freed setting the pace for us this morning.
Yeah, man.
That was good, man. Yeah, I could do that all day.
Well, we could listen to you, dude. Don't tempt us, man. We could listen to that all day. Man, I would love to have you continue if there's anything else if you have time. I don't know. I know we're super late.
Yeah, maybe I'll play one more thing or something like that.
That'd be amazing.
Let's see here.
By the way, somebody asked, what saxophone is that?
This is just a Selmer Super Action Series 1, or a No Series, as some people refer to it as. Yeah. From the 80s,
Cool.
it's an interesting story. My uncle found this for me under. He said that some older lady just had it under her bed and wanted to sell it. And my uncle was not a good, um, not a great musician, an
Mm-hmm.
average musician, but he decided that he would play the horn over the phone to me, and along with another horn, a Vito, black lacquer Vito. And for my saxophone playing friends, how bad that might have been if I would have chose that one. So he said, "I'll play the two horns, and whichever one you pick, that's the one I'll get you." So fortunately, I chose this one, and we've
Nice.
been together 20 years now. So
Ooh, that's beautiful. Junius Paul
okay,
says, "What's up?" By the way, we got Junius watching. He says, "Yeah, I know you."
hey, Junius. All right, okay, let's
Greg
see.
Ward, everybody. This is Greg Ward. Woo!
Hey,
That was gorgeous, man. Thank you. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, the audio
that's
through
great.
FaceTime, it was getting a little bit choppy at points in that, and it gates the FaceTime
Ah,
audio at a point. I witnessed this with Fareed's session too. There's a low level that it ends up cutting out when things are soft. So we were experiencing that a little bit, but we got the majority of it and we got the essence of it. And so thank you so much, Greg, for coming on this. This is beautiful. I hope we can have you back, man.
man, that'd be a pleasure. It's good that you're doing, it, Greg, and yeah, I look forward to watching some more episodes.
Awesome. All right, thanks a lot. And is there anything you want to tell the people that they can, any recordings coming up or things you want people to pay attention to, a website?
I just released this piece that I did, Scorch, and it's available for free on my SoundCloud. you can check it out. It's a little concerto for jazz quartet and string orchestra that I just released maybe a little over a week ago. So check that out. Some good music, and just hope everybody stays healthy, stays positive, and productive until we get out of this. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I, for one, am very excited to go listen to Scorch. I'm sure, knowing what I know about Greg Ward, it is absolute fire, no pun intended. More pun intended, I guess. And yeah, Greg Ward, thank you so much for being on the show. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Greg.
Bye.
Ciao.
Woo! Greg Ward, everybody. Ah, man. So two geniuses joined me today. That was intense. Listening to Greg's blues playing, and then his gorgeous melodic landscape that he did for us at the end there. I just feel blessed. I feel lucky. And I think we're all blessed in various ways that we can listen to people like this and be exposed to that which they put out into the world. It's very, very special. I also feel grateful to have food to eat and shelter and to be able to stay away from coronavirus, which we all should do. So please take care of yourselves, everybody. And somebody says careful, sax solos like that might drive the inevitable COVID-19 baby boom too far. Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen here, everybody. So beautiful. So anyway, this was Mornings with Greg. This morning you had two Gregs. One of them was me, and one of them was the inspiring Greg Ward. Check out his record Scorch. Check out Fareed Haq's music. There's a whole giant catalog of Fareed's music. Fareed was on earlier. If you want to go back, this video will be up for some time. At some point I'll take them all off because I make a fool of myself constantly, but for now I'm leaving them up and you can go and check them out. If you really want to maybe rip it from YouTube so that you can hold on to it after it's gone. And keep tuning back every morning at 8 a.m. because every single morning I'm back until I'm not. And I'm continuing this thing, and I have really cool guests, and I'm building out the system to have these exciting chats with people. All right. Thank you guys again. Love you guys very, very, very much. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Stay safe. Bye.